Hi there, good afternoon, and welcome to today's live session. I'm Claire Williams from the British Equestrian Trade Association, and today is part of our Summer of Safety series. This summer, we've been talking about all things safety, from safety equipment to yard safety, tack safety, right through to riding and road safety and feed safety. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Joe Stockdale, who's an up-and-coming young show jumper with an impressive list of successes already under his belt. Hi there, Joe. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Great. And congratulations on being named as part of the European team to go to Germany.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very honoured to be on the team. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a great experience.
I should know, is this the first time you've been named on a senior team?
It's not my first senior team, but it's certainly my first championship team, which is pretty special.
I'll say. And yeah, I was looking at your records. You've only just come back from Germany, haven't you?
Yes, well, I actually went out. That was a little bit of preparation, you see. So I thought I would go out to Germany. I jumped at a show there, which was on a good grass arena. Obviously, the championships is going to be on a big grass arena, so I wanted to go get just a round under my belt, get the mare jumping sort of in that environment. Obviously, not the same level that it's going to be there, but still strong enough and on the grass with a bit of a crowd and things like that, just to make sure that we're all on track for where we wanted to be.
Oh, brilliant. And did you take the same year? It's Casserole, isn't it?
Yes, Casserole. Yeah, she went there. Yeah,
Oh, brilliant. And how old is she?
she's 10-year-old.
Oh,
We've had her since she's been a 3-year-old. We bought her at
right.
a local young horse auction, actually, just loose jumping, unbroken, and we bought her there. And to be honest with you, we always knew that she was going to be a really special one. My dad was the one that saw her. He bought her, and straight away, it didn't take long that you knew there was just something about her that was, very, very special.
That must be amazing as well, getting a horse that age and bringing her through to the level she's now at. That's an incredible achievement.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
many?
Well, it's sort of, yeah. It makes it a little bit more special, I suppose,
Yeah.
because you know her so well, and you've got that connection with her. It's definitely special.
How many horses have you got on the yard then?
We've got about 23 at the minute. I'd say about 13 of those 12 or 13 are in full work most days, and then we've got a couple of brood mares. We've got a couple of liveries, and then we've got like my old retired ponies are here. So they just go out in a jumping paddock every day and go eat the grass there. And then we've actually got one other Calico Bay, who was a horse that my dad won the King George V Gold Cup on. He's here, so he gets hacked out occasionally, sort of when he fancies it. But other than that, he's enjoying his retirement in the field as well.
That's brilliant. I mean, I know preparing to go away in the UK, I'm sure has been a bit tricky over the last year, but getting ready to go to Europe is probably even trickier than it used to be post Brexit. So what sort of things do you need to think about when you're doing those big trips? I mean, I know you were lucky or unlucky enough to be in Spain when we had the EHV outbreak. Tell me a bit about
Yeah.
that, because the biosecurity and just trying to keep your horses safe must have been a real challenge.
It was a nightmare, and actually, it was very, very scary. While we were there, and nobody really knew what was happening. It was hard to get information exactly. You don't know what information is gossip or what's true or what's not, and you hear all these stories. And obviously, we were seeing all the footage of the show with the horses that had it, and how badly that was going. So it was a very scary moment for us, and for all the riders really anywhere, about what to do. You didn't know whether to try and travel and go. Obviously, at that point, we were 100% sure. We'd been taking temperatures of the horses. The show had actually been locked down, so we knew that no horses then had come in or out. And the vets were on standby, basically checking any horses that did have any sort of a temperature. Luckily, it was okay for the time being. But yeah, it was pretty scary, and it was more just the not knowing what was best to do
Mm.
for your horses, and also, you know, what's safe going home and everything else. So we were, you know, we were I'd say we were pretty quick on getting organised of making a plan. We made sure we quarantined our horses away from anyone else's. Started taking temperatures every single day, 3 times a day, just to check and make sure. And then basically, when it came down to deciding to try and get back, we went to the local um, sort of garden centre, bought a load of big packs of the weed sprayer cans, filled that up with disinfectant. We were disinfecting all of our stables, every pathway around us while we were at the show.
Gosh.
Did the whole lorry before we set off, and then anywhere, so at our stopovers, anywhere the horses went got disinfected. All the stables, everything, water drinkers got taped up so that there was no, you know, they weren't getting water from a horse that had been there before. Stripped all the bedding out, sprayed it all, new bedding in. It was a bit of a nightmare. In fairness, it was not easy. We managed to get back. You know, we only stopped over in 2 places, which we obviously need to stop because you can't do the trip in one.
It's a long
Um,
way.
but yes, so we stopped over there, but we knew that no horses had been in or out of those yards before we got there. And then we still, obviously, there was no horses there. We were quarantining ourselves, spraying everything, and we sprayed it all before we left, and the same. And then when we got home, there was actually, we're quite lucky we've got a yard opposite us, which has no horses in it. There's no one that lives there. So we went over, we basically hired those stables for I can't remember how long it was. It was 2 weeks, or could have been, was it 20 days? Whatever the time period was, I can't remember. We basically had a completely separate yard where Charlotte, my head groom, that travels with me everywhere, she was living in the lorry at that other yard. We had no contact, no physical contact with her while she was there. And basically, we isolated those horses to make sure that we hadn't picked anything up on the way, and it wasn't going to come into our yard and obviously then go to shows, or we didn't have anyone in or out of our yard in that whole period, just in case I brought something in on my clothes or whatever. So we did the full job to make sure that we weren't bringing anything back, and we didn't have anything. We were 90% certain that we hadn't got anything while we were out there, but we wanted to just, you can never be too careful. And the worst thing that we could have done would be to have brought it back and spread it around the yards here. So we were very careful about that.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, as you say, you really don't want to bring it back. Were you as careful before you went, or is it really just brought home how vulnerable you might be when you're out and about?
I would say that we would be more careful than a lot of people, but nowhere near as careful as what we are now. Knowing that can happen. It's sort of, it's like anything, even with COVID and us. Everyone gets quite complacent, and it's the same with the horses. Even though I would say we are pretty hot on it, and some people would probably say we're a bit over the top beforehand with how careful we were. Still now, we are, even now when it's less of a threat and people are more on it, we still disinfect every stable, stopover we go to. We try to, for a show, obviously it's difficult and tense, but obviously now it's 10 days before you're taking temperatures of the horses to make sure that none of that's going to a show. And we're just that little bit more aware of what's around us at shows, and just trying not to have, not letting any of the horses have contact with those from other yards and everything else, which is difficult at a show. But we're trying to be as on it as we possibly can do. Just to, take that precaution, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking with Red Wings and a stud actually that had not the same variety you had in Spain, but had a local one from a horse that had obviously been a host, and it just highlights how careful you've got to be. It's interesting what you're saying about taking temperatures as well, because we've just done some research into how often people take their horses' temperatures, and they typically don't unless they think something's wrong. So what you're doing obviously is doing it before, so you can monitor going up. And then after, Red Wings, particularly about strangles, because you never know when that's going to hit you. And you certainly, for one, definitely don't want to. have downtime.
No, absolutely not. No, you just can't. You can't afford to let that happen. So yeah, we're pretty careful, and we try to keep a keen eye. I like to say the temperatures it's difficult to tell, but at least if we have temperatures and we've got sort of a collection of results, we can start to see if anything changes off that norm. Then at least we know that even if it wasn't EHV or it was something else, we would know if anything changed in their diet, the way they're feeling, anything like that. We're hopefully on top of it before it can get to a point where there's no return.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're going out to Riesenbeck, are you traveling out all individually, or are you going out together as a team?
Individually.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got 2 horses going, because actually there's a separate competition on at the same time as the championship. So I think other people would have other horses going, etc. So everyone's sort of doing their own thing to get there, and then we'll make a bit of a collection when we arrive.
Yeah. How challenging has Brexit made it, taking horses over?
Very.
Yeah, I know what it's like from the trade side. It ain't easy.
It's a bit of a nightmare. It has, I would say, got better a little bit. We were one of the first to travel after Brexit, and it was a nightmare. There's very little information about what's changed. Even this last trip that I've just been on, the whole system had changed from the time that I went out before, and nobody, we didn't know. Nobody told us there was different places to go yet, different processes. It all changed, which it seems like a small thing when you get there, because you say, oh, you get there and they just tell you what to do. But when you've got horses on board and there's extra delays, it adds time onto your journey. You can't plan for that. And the very first time we went, they held us in the docks at Calais for, I think it was 4 hours, 4.5 hours, where you weren't allowed to leave. And we were quite lucky. We were the only lorry in there. It took them 4.5 hours, and that we were quite lucky. Other people had gone out and had longer waiting times, which is just ridiculous, because you're going to get horses that are going to get ill. So actually, every time I travel now, I book stables in Calais, to make sure that I can basically, if I do get that delay, the horses stay there. So although it's more of an expense from my side, not only because the paperwork's now about 3 times the price for any travel over to France, but I now pay for a stopover as well in Calais, so it adds an extra day onto your journey. But you can't risk having a horse start to feel ill or sick or travel sick because they hold you there. There's nothing you can do if one got sick. I mean, it's the vets that are there, and it's the vets that are taking so long to do it. So from a horse welfare point of view, it's poor from them, and it's not a system that works. It has actually just changed again, surprisingly. So there's now, I need to look into exactly how it's working before I go, but you never know. It has got better, but it's still not ideal. It's very expensive. And you just don't know how long it's going to take. And I was coming back from a trip. I'd done a 7-week trip a couple of months ago, and I was coming back from there, and the French had misstamped my carnet, which is now you need a booklet where you temporarily export the horses into the EU, and then you re-import them on both sides, both on the English and the French side. Both the English and the French had stamped the wrong bit of paper on my carnet, and so they actually managed to export all of my horses. So it was not good. So I came to come back in with 3 horses. With that, the French stopped me. I was getting on the train that time, and they stopped me to check my carnet. I then explained what had happened, how it had been misstamped, and they took my passport off me, locked me in a room. I was there for 4 hours. They basically then tried to give a ridiculous fine for what had happened, even though the French and the English had stamped out without checking the paperwork. So they'd done that. I was there, like I say, that added 4 hours onto my journey. Horses are stood there. I can't get out of the the place because I'd already gone through French passports and I was between French and English.
You're in that no man's land in between.
No man's land there. I couldn't get out. They locked me in this building. I couldn't leave the building and go and check on the horses. Luckily, I had Charlotte with me. So Charlotte was there making sure the horses were all right. But if I was on my own, I mean, the horses
What a
just sat there.
nightmare. Yeah.
But they don't care. They didn't care that I had 4 horses on board that needed looking after. They just don't understand it. So
yeah, you're not. It's no comfort, and for my members, it's not living horses. It's product that they're facing the same issues. And yeah, I think they've got new export health certificates, but I think they're accepting both for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it's a really complicated scene. So the last thing I think, the fact that you've got stables available in Calais is really important for the welfare. As you say, if you're held up, then you have that opportunity to stay over. But because how much of your competition is continent versus or Europe versus the UK now?
Most of it would be over in Europe. We have a few, we've got a good few shows here. We'd still be good to have more here in the UK. I know how difficult it is to set up a good show in the centre and fund it and everything else. But I'd say most of it would be abroad. Usually, obviously, any shows that are here, I try and do because obviously they're convenient and everything else, and they're good shows. But yeah, a lot of it would be abroad. So it's not really a something we can avoid from a business, but it's just now I've just got to know to be more prepared in the fact that I've got contingency planning that if something did happen, I've got stables ready for the horses. And to be honest, I use that every time now. They just stay in Calais and that way they've got a shorter day on the lorry. I don't want them stood on there for hours. So So yeah, it's important to just be prepared for that delay.
And planning, because in terms of safety as well, you're going to have to pay attention to what feed you're taking, because you're going to want to know that what you're feeding has come from a clean source and that you can monitor it. Do you take all your feed and supplements with you?
Yeah. So all of mine, I would take it across. I wouldn't go over and buy feed unless it was from so all my horses on Spiller's horse feed. So all of that is I take all of that abroad. If it did happen, I would basically get others more brought over to me. I wouldn't go and buy from a different brand, pure from the diet for our horses, because I don't want to change of food. Some of them are very fussy, especially my good mare Casserole. She's, as soon as you change one little bit of food with her, she all of a sudden hates it and can't believe what you're trying to do to her. So it's not only from that point of view, but like you say, having the confidence that there isn't going to be no contamination. There's no feed in there that you don't know what it is. So we're really on top of just making sure that it's it is what it says on the tin, and we're not going to get ourselves in any trouble accidentally.
No, that's why we've got the NOP scheme, is to give you that assurance that you can feed as safely as you possibly can be. So I bet that's absolutely key. And in terms of what other measures what does safety mean to you, like on your yard at home? Do you presumably you have work riders as well? Do you make certain they have kitted out? I suppose that's your role as an employer as well.
Yes.
Like it or not.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah. So actually, most of the time it's only me riding here. But yeah, if anyone else is riding, obviously you've got to just be really on it and make sure that people are doing things properly. It's quite easy, sort of in this environment, to get a little bit complacent, both working around the horses on the ground, and when you're riding, because you ride them every day, you think, oh, he's good as gold, he'll never do anything, and then that's the day that it'll always end up going wrong. So yeah, I think it's just keep reminding yourself that it is quite a dangerous job. That you're working with big, strong animals, and they don't necessarily mean to do it. If they do step on you, hurt you, or whatever, but it's going to happen. So from our point of view, trying to keep on top of the yard, it's just making sure that things are done properly. Everything is, we try and stick to a system so that we don't forget about things that could go wrong or things get left, and any little bit like that. People wear hats when they need to. If you're trotting one up and it's a little bit wild, we've always got a hat on. You know, if it's a new horse, we're really careful with them, you know, around in the wash box and everything like that, just because you don't know them. But even the ones that you do know, you still need to be really aware of where you are with them and what they're doing, and just make sure, because it's like I say, you might know them so well, and somebody pops around the corner and makes them jump and they step on you, but that's not their fault. That's just, you know, it's just one of those things. So you just got to be quite on it, and make sure you don't get complacent with you know, a bit of discipline on yourself to make sure that you are doing things properly when you can.
That's when they catch you out. I had Paul Tapner on right at the start of the season, and he had a horrendous fall, actually. And he was out hacking his badminton ride around the farm, and they don't know what happened. The horse came back without him. And so you're right. It's that just making yourself aware of the risks that are there and not taking them for granted. Because I think it is very easy to become complacent when you know your horse as well.
It is, yeah, yeah. But it could be, you know, it could be even the point of view of checking your tack and making sure, your girth's done up. There's no, you know, bits aren't fraying off. You've not got leather that's ripped, anything like that, where you could, you know, a girth could snap on you, a stirrup leather could snap when you're jumping around, you know, everything like that. Just those little details. It's really important to make sure that you're sort of keeping an eye out and being quite on it with, you know, just looking out for those little things. Because, like I said, they're easy to miss.
Yeah, I think we all do as well. I'm not exactly the best tack cleaner in the world, and it's when you're cleaning your tack you notice it. So yeah, exactly. So you mentioned one of your sponsors. I know you've got a really good range of sponsors. What do they mean for you in terms of how you compete and run your yard?
Oh, you know, the sponsors, that I'm very lucky to have a fantastic set of sponsors, and they are so vital for what we do. And you really couldn't do it without them, because another thing that everyone sort of forgets is the knowledge that they would bring. And from a point of safety, and making sure that the yard is as good as it can be. And we've got, you know, there's nothing there that isn't working, or you sort of bodge together to fix. And, you know, making sure they're on good feed, good supplements to keep them healthy. You know, that is so important. So for me to be able to, you know, like my supplement company, Equine America, to be able to go to them and say, listen, I've got a horse that is a little bit this way or that way, they struggle putting weight on. How can I help them? How can I do that? And having their knowledge, you know, because we've got knowledge to an extent, but they're a real specialist in that field. So for things like that, you know, it's so important for us, and it really does help get the best out of the horses, from every point of view. You know, from our bedding, you know, making sure that they're on good, clean bedding all the time. There's not too much dust in the bedding. You know, we're on Hunter wood shavings, making sure that that's heavily dust extracted. So if you did have one with a breathing problem, we know that that's not going to develop into an issue with us, because we can rely on those sponsors and the products that they provide. So, you know, without them, it's so difficult to do. So having them, you know, I've got a massive range of sponsors. I could be here for hours talking about all of them. You know, that's just to mention a couple, but you know, it's so important to have them behind you and supporting you. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, yeah, as you said, it's the support they give you and that knowledge and expertise that otherwise you could be without. And I remember your dad actually came and spoke at a conference, one of our conferences, and his topic was sponsors and working with sponsors and how they can make that difference. And I know, you know, it's a two-way street. You know, sponsors do it for a reason, just as much as you do. So, and it sounds like you've got a really good relationship, because that's what a sponsorship is. It's a two-way relationship.
Yeah.
And so, moving aside from riding, do you have time to do anything not riding? What other interests have you got? Doesn't sound as though you possibly can, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, you know, as and when I can, I do. You know, it is nice now and then to sort of get away from the yard. I do feel that if you do get a day off, I have to leave, because otherwise I'll end up doing jobs and bits and bobs and tinkering with stuff, you know. But my brother is a massive golfer, and that's actually what he wants to do. He wants to be a golfer. So if I do get a chance, I do love to go and have a round with him. He always beats me. I mean, he's a million miles better than me, but I really enjoy that. And actually, it's nice not to have to think about the yard. I'm lucky here to have such a good set of staff with us, that, you know, you can really rely on, and I know that things are going to get done properly, and they're going to look after all the horses as if I was here. So actually, they don't really need me. They could run this by themselves.
They're probably glad when you go. They're
Yeah,
probably glad, yeah.
I stopped nagging them then. So yeah, to have them, is so important, and it actually does. If you do get the odd day where you've got an opportunity, I love to go and hit a few balls with my brother. And yeah, so as and when you can, I think it's nice, but yeah, fairly busy most of the time.
Yeah, I was going to say horses is a way of life, isn't it? Not just a job, really. It
Yeah,
is.
I always say that to him with his golf clubs. Say, if you have a bad day, you just put them in the cupboard and leave them for a day. It's fine. I thought I can't do that. And if I have a bad day, you still got to feed them, water them, look after them, all the other bits. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
think it's just something that you gotta live it really.
Yeah, exactly. And so looking forward, what are your plans for the future? I know you've qualified for Hoys, so you'll be at Hoys in October.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, yeah, Hoy's in October. And then yeah, at the minute I've sort of been so focused on this championship, I haven't really got a very solid plan afterwards. I think Casserole, the mare that's going, she'll probably have, she'd want a little bit of time after that. It's going to be tough enough. So then it gives me a nice opportunity to work on a few of the young horses I've got here. I've got a lovely set of horses actually, younger ones coming through, and some good older ones as well, to sort of run alongside Casserole. So yes, it'd be nice actually to be able to focus on them, and she can have a little bit of a break. I can work with those younger ones and actually the other ones that I've got here. I'm very lucky to have such a good set of horses. I mean, my owners, to have their support and to have all the the horses around me that I do because of them is obviously, I'm in a very fortunate place. So it'd be nice to get out to a few shows with them, and yeah, hopefully we'll go well next week, and then I'll sit down and have a bit of a plan and go again really.
And I suppose the big aim must be Paris, because you've been put on the ambition pathway to work towards Paris. Would it be Casserole you're targeting for Paris, or one of the other horses?
I think she would be. I think she would be the one from that. Like I say, she's an unbelievable mare. She's an unbelievable horse. I don't, you'd struggle to find another one in your career as talented as what she is, I think. So certainly with her, I think this is this is good experience. She's going to be a nice age, and when it comes to Paris, she'll be a bit more experienced at that championship level. So yeah, listen, for me, that's the dream at the end of the day, is an Olympics. I mean, that's the absolute pinnacle. So to be able to go and do that, that would be special, but it's a long way away yet. So
Less
there's a lot of
another,
things that can happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 years at
So,
least, not 4 years. So I suppose that's one thing. You've
yeah,
saved,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's a bit
yeah.
better. But that'd be the dream. That's the dream. But we've got a long way to go to
Yeah.
there.
You've always got to have dreams. Joe, thanks so much. Good luck out in Germany. I
Thank
lived
you.
there. I lived there for 10 years, so for me it's like going home. But
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, good luck, and hope it goes well. And similarly for Hoys, and we'll all dream for you for 2024. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.